Thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta.
Pop Culture Pastor.
So, Cody, inspired by Across the Spiderverse, I've begun to wonder what I would look like in multiple realities. The Daveverse, if you will.
I don't know if we needed the Daveverse, but...
Oh, I think we do. I like to think, because this is the way I think, I am the worst version of myself. This is the worst version of me. Like, I like to think there's a version of me that's like, that beat out Chris Hemsworth to be Thor.
I imagine that...
Or Captain America. That I might have beat out the other Chris.
When you were young, you might have been Spidey himself.
No. I was always my frame is I was too muscular for Spidey. Spidey's got to be, smaller.
Okay, Hulk Hogan. Eating your vitamins and saying your prayers.
There was a time in my life where you joke, but there was a time in my life where I could have been a pro wrestler, I think. And I wanted to be. I had my walk-up music and everything.
When I seen that picture of you and your wife, your wedding picture,
yes,
I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
He was buff back in the day.
Yeah. And just think, in that wedding picture, I'm already about 25-ish pounds over my playing weight for basketball.
Oh.
So, like, I was already out of shape by the time the wedding pictures. Now it looks like I was, Mr. T.
So I did have a mutual friend tell me that Dave kind of looked like a more buff Ryan Howard from The Office in the wedding photo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. I'm a little Ryan Howard look to me, except for the hair. I never had hair that good. I just shaved my head. But in my wedding photos, I did have, that was about the most hair I ever had.
I said, yes, you did. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the most hair I've ever had. And I had someone like actually try to do something with it. But anyways, there's probably multiple better versions of me all over the Daveverse. That was the point of all that.
What if you are the best version of the Daveverse?
Come on, man. Why'd you bring me down like that? That's so sad. That's just so sad.
I
like to think you're smack dab in the middle.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
You went high. I went low.
I knew it. I'm right in the middle, baby. Right what I was aiming for. Mediocrity.
Aim small, miss small.
That is an inside joke that hardly anybody listening to this will get.
There's like 2 other people in the world that might understand it.
Yeah, not even the geeks of the round table will all get that. One of them might.
Yes.
But for the most part, that's a tough one. Our geek of the round table that's joining us this week is Matt Bogle, who has appeared one other time on the pod for the Thor Love and Thunder review.
Yeah.
So you're back under much better circumstances. I mean, I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
But this is much better circumstances.
Absolutely.
That's an ouch.
Cody, you are the only person on the face of the earth who seems to think Thor 4 was good.
It was good. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad.
I just don't have enough energy to argue. Like,
I'm just saying,
we saw a good movie. We're not supposed to be fighting. We're not going to fight.
Have you seen the rest of that phase? It looks like a diamond in the rough.
Well, let's go back to the Daveverse discussion. If Thor Love and Thunder is the worst version of Phase 4, which it is, that's not even mediocrity. That's just terrible.
I'm just saying. It's a diamond in the rough, Dave.
The part I hate to admit is I think even Chris Hemsworth would agree with you, Dave.
Yeah, that's a great segue. Look at this guy. I think we just replaced my co-host. Cody's been demoted. We're going to look into the Codyverse for a new Cody.
It only gets worse from here.
So Matt Bogle is back. And as you might remember, he has a son named Thor.
Yep.
Which gives him some sort of street cred to speak on Thor stuff.
It does.
Because I don't have a son named Thor. I know Cody doesn't have a son named Thor.
Nope. I do have a Thor Funko, though.
He has a dog named Kylo.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Star Wars, the sequels, then Cody's the expert.
Nice.
It's a rough subject to be the expert of.
It's like being a culinary expert in puppy chow, man. All right. I said it was a good segue, and then I messed it up. So let's go into it.
Sabotage.
We got a few articles of news here. Chris Hemsworth recently did an interview with Variety, and he admitted that Thor 4 was too silly. Now, you may be surprised to know that Thor, this article says Thor Love and Thunder was a box office hit with $760 million worldwide. And I'm just like, come on, Variety. No, that's not a hit because it should have made a billy. And poor word of mouth, like there is such a thing as sliding scales.
I'm just saying.
Should it have been a slow clap?
It should have been
It was
something
a thunderous round of applause.
Only because you couldn't smell a smell. It's just a clap, right? I don't know. This article does say a lot of Marvel fans were turned off by writer-director Taika Waititi's silly humor. Thor actor Chris Hemsworth is aware of the negativity around his fourth Love and Thunder movie, and he admitted, it was in a GQ profile, that Love and Thunder was, quote, too silly for its own good. Here's the rest of his quote, I think we just had too much fun. It just became too silly. It's always hard being in the center of it and having any real perspective. I love the process. It's always a ride, but you just don't know how people are going to respond. So this is, he still has to work with Marvel and probably still wants to work with Taika. So this is his diplomatic response. That's bad. I mean, he just pooed on it.
Or that's him conceding to the fans so that way they come out for Thor 5. Because that's what I take it as, is, I'll pat you on the back, Marvel fans. Yeah, it was bad. Oh, okay.
No,
wink, wink,
no,
nudge,
stop
nudge.
it. Stop it.
You're really
Wink,
reaching there, Cody.
Wink, nudge, nudge.
He said his biggest critics were his son's friends. A bunch of 8-year-olds critiquing my film. We thought this one had too much humor. The action was cool, but the VFX weren't as good. That's what his son's friends.
Well, that's not on Chris or Taika, the VFX.
They said it was good. The kids said it was good.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Oh, it wasn't as good.
Yeah.
The VFX weren't as good. Well,
that Taika can't do
that's
everything.
that's on the lady that got fired.
Yeah,
they fired
evidently.
MCU fired what's her name because of how she dealt with the digital people.
Kennedy? No.
No.
The one who was second in command to Feige. She was the one in charge of dealing with the VFX teams.
And evidently wasn't the nicest.
Well, you got to have, it's like the dude in Office Space. She has people skills. I deal with the people. Can't you understand? Anyways, he said he loved the experience. Did Chris Hemsworth, blah, blah, blah. He also commented on the criticism made towards Marvel movies by, real auteurs.
Oh, okay.
Like Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino.
Quint.
Scorsese, of course, has hit out against Marvel for negatively impacting exhibition. No comment on that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, quit making so many artsy films and you would make money.
Tarantino said last November that Marvel is incapable of generating movie stars.
What?
Yeah, how does that even make sense? Oh, I'm sorry, because Chris Evans was so huge before Marvel?
And Hemsworth.
Hemsworth?
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. What? No, bro. Like, even Robert Downey Jr. was not anywhere near the level he is now.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because he had spiraled down into the pits and...
Well, that's exaggerative. He wasn't in the pits.
I think he went to prison.
He did
for a
Kiss,
while.
Kiss, Bang, Bang, bro.
And, it was a great film, but literally you and me have seen it.
Yeah. Well, but Tarantino...
Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang.
What
is that?
It stars...
No kidding.
Oh, okay. I was going to tell you. It stars Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. We're going to talk about Val Kilmer now. We brought up Val Kilmer. So it's time to talk about Val Kilmer because Cody loves Val Kilmer.
I'm just saying Val did a great job.
It's actually, I'm just messing with you. It's sort of adorable, your fandom for Val Kilmer.
Someone needs to be a fan.
And I will support your fandom, just as I will support anybody's fandom, within reason. Quentin Tarantino, currently, I'm not going to support his fandom of criticizing Marvel for not generating movie stars, because I'm just like, Quentin, what movie stars have you generated? All you've done is recycled. Who became a big movie star from a Quentin Tarantino movie? He resuscitated some careers, but John Travolta, saying that about John Travolta is like, no, John Travolta was already pretty big at some point in his career, bro.
And Uma was already in movies that I could say, hey.
Uma was an Academy Award winner.
Well, what about Samuel Jackson?
No, he was pretty big by that time, I think. Wasn't he? He was already getting big.
That role,
I think that it definitely catapulted him, but he was already a rising.
Yeah, I'll leave that one to the fans. I don't know for sure. I need a chronology of his films.
Yeah, because now I'm like, when did Die Hard come out? Or Die Hard 3 come out compared to this / Jurassic Park?
It was after Pulp Fiction. Die Hard 3 was after Pulp Fiction.
Jurassic Park 1?
Jurassic. He's in it for like 2 minutes.
Hold on to your butts is one of the best movie lines.
Granted, in that 2 minutes, does he capitalize? Yes. Yes, he does. Hold on to your butts.
He is an amazing actor.
Yeah, he listen, Samuel L. Jackson can deliver a line, and that's what Quentin Tarantino is really good at, is writing lines. Catchphrases.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's good at that.
What was the Eddie Murphy movie he was in?
Oh, yeah.
Coming to America?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, way back. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson's been around for a while.
Yeah, he
robbed the McDowells.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So Chris Hemsworth, that's where you're at. He started talking about Tarantino said they're not movie stars, these people in the Marvel movies. Captain America is the star, or Thor is the star, which, again, Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth resume since would argue with that.
Right.
Like, okay, then why are these dudes getting so much work now?
Yeah.
And anything they're in is an immediate must watch for people. Like, no, I disagree.
And if this new Fantastic Four becomes a hit, I think that will speak to having good actors elevate the character, because Mr. Evans was in the Fantastic Four and it was trash.
Yeah, well, I think
allegedly
the Fantastic Four casting is interesting because I think they're doing something they haven't done in the past. Marvel hasn't really casted up like that for like the whole, core of a movie like they're doing with the Fantastic Four. And I think it's because they want it to be a big hit. I think they want to do the Avengers formula, but with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, because it's been cursed up to now.
Yes, but it shouldn't be.
No, it's a great
story that they should be able to do. They just mess with it too much. Just do the story as it's written. Anyways, Chris Hemsworth said it was super depressing when he heard that about Tarantino and Scorsese, and he said, "There goes two of my heroes I won't work with. I guess they're not a fan of me."
Ouch.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to see Hemsworth in a Tarantino flick, but I wouldn't tell anyone because I'm a pastor. He's such a potty mouth.
And so much tomato sauce just going all over the place.
Lots of blood. Lots of blood. Okay. Should we talk about The Flash? The reviews are coming in on The Flash. And we're going to, of course, do a review show on The Flash because it's a comic book movie and that's what we do.
It has been hyped.
And, it's getting some good reviews, but it's getting some mixed reviews.
Last check on Rotten Tomatoes, 76 critic score.
Which, that sounds about right, because I think the average, if you average it out, you're looking at about a high C, I think is what it is, which is nowhere near the best comic book movie of all time, which is what the rumblings were about. But since we last talked about it, Andy Muschietti, who's the director of this movie, has been tapped by James Gunn to direct the Batman Brave and the Bold movie. That's part of his new wave of new DC Universe movies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that's a good sign. Although Marvel did that too with the Ant-Man Quantumania guy before the movie came out. And then after the movie came out, they were like, you know what? No, thank you. We're gonna change the plan on that one because he was supposed to do King Dynasty.
Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name. Loveness. Jeff Loveness was his name. He did Quantumania, and before that movie came out. So I think there's partially what they do this thing where they're trying to pump up the movie that's about to come out.
Right.
And they're so like by naming someone the director of something in some far off future project that they know they can change at any time they want to, it kind of pumps up people's excitement level for this one, right?
Yeah. But, and DC is very good at dropping people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, almost everybody. Because why don't we talk about the one person nobody seems to be talking about? And that's because he's not doing, they're not doing any interviews. They're not doing any, Ezra Miller is not on like the junkets. He's not talking. He's not doing, he is going to the premiere, but they're not having them do any press. And this is really weird. I mean, Ezra is the star of the movie.
Yeah.
And so I just don't know what do you, I mean, I have a theory, but what do you guys make of this? What's going on here? So they named the Flash director to do this future movie that's going to be a pretty important movie from that first phase of movies. They name him to do it. They've said all along, the DC, the Warner Brothers people have said all along, this movie is the greatest comic book movie waiting to happen. It's coming out to mixed reviews. Ezra is just nowhere to be found. Like, they're keeping him far away from any interviews.
Well, he's on Crazy Train.
I mean, is that it? Because we're told he's getting help.
Walking around wearing a flak jacket and carrying a gun.
When is that recently?
It's been a little while back, but
yeah, no. Oh, so he's supposed to have been in. I mean, yeah, I know he was that Ezra was acting a little off the edge, but
yeah,
he was supposed to be in therapy. That was the line. Ezra was supposed to be in therapy. That's what they said, and Ezra was getting help, and that was. So that was almost a year ago.
If that's the case, why is he not talking? Why do they not?
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm trying to ask.
I have an out.
Yep.
Okay. Here it is.
All right.
You know Jonah Hill? Big time movie star?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know Jonah Hill.
Suffers from debilitating anxiety and has said that he refuses to do any interviews, any press interviews here on out.
Yeah, his documentary was really good.
It was. I really enjoyed that one. So if Ezra has mental health problems, which they have admitted that they do have those mental health problems, and if like anxiety and the pressure of doing all the press and photo shoot stuff is too much,
right?
Knock some of that off the plate, because they did confirm that they would be, or DC confirmed that Ezra would be at the LA premiere and would do photos, strictly photos.
Photos, that's it.
Now, you can also say this is a good PR move because all the press would have just been about Ezra's previous actions over the past handful of years. And rightfully so.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And so
I'm glad you put that in there because, yeah, that should be a topic of discussion.
And I think that it still will be, whether Ezra gets interviewed or not. But if DC is actually concerned about Ezra's mental health well-being, and this is something that might be triggering, then this is actually a good move for Ezra.
Do you believe what you just said, though?
70%.
Do you believe 70%? Okay.
I think it's right for Ezra, because I was playing devil's advocate with the Crazy Train, but it's good for Ezra. I don't believe that that is the production studios. I think they could care less.
Yeah.
It is. I think it would take away from their premiere, but I've got other weird theories in my head too. I won't even go into.
Well, here's my theory. My theory is this. I think everything they're doing is they're trying to withhold as much as they can because they know that this movie is not going to tie in to their new universe. I think their plan the whole time has been they know this isn't going to tie in, and so they're holding Ezra back so they don't damage the box office.
Right.
They send him off to get help, get therapy, and then, Ezra's conveniently out of the public eye for them. So he's not causing Ezra's not causing any more problems, and then they can go get their help, and Warner Brothers doesn't have to worry about Ezra. And I think all of this is to hold Ezra in some sort of holding pattern so that Ezra doesn't do any more damage to the brand of the movie.
Right.
So this movie in particular had enough good word of mouth going for it that I think they thought it would make money, in which Warner Brothers is desperately needing this movie to make money.
You just hit it. I think it's about money, and because they need it.
Yeah. Now, I still don't understand why they didn't put anything behind Shazam.
Yeah.
I think James Gunn, here's what I really think, but I can't prove. I think James Gunn doesn't like Zachary Levi. I think James Gunn has people that he likes and people that he dislikes, and I think that affects, because Shazam, as we talked about on the pod, was a pretty good movie.
It was. It was a good movie.
I don't know how else to say it other than it was pretty good. But it wasn't great, but it was a B-.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to disagree with that. The reason why they didn't put any money behind it, because Zach and Peter Safran are like best buds.
Yeah,
and James Gunn might be the creative control. I think all the stuff that they were told was probably, you have this much budget to promote for this coming year. Decide how you're going to do it. And The Flash has one thing going for it that no one seemingly is talking about in the news, but amongst the fans, they're talking about it. And that's, we get Keaton back as Batman. And so if you're like me, you grew up with Keaton being your first Batman. And so nostalgia will drive some box office numbers. I don't know if it'll make money, but if you are going to invest in promoting projects, you invest in ones that you think will actually have a return.
For what it's worth, this is what Variety says. Ezra wants the movie to open and the conversation to be about the movie and not about Ezra. They are focused on their mental health and don't want it to be transactional. That's the official word from Ezra's people. Now, it's what a matter if you believe that. Now, I want to believe that. I want to believe that Ezra is being humble and getting help and not wanting to be a sideshow. But there's also, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense from the standpoint of it's a $190 million movie, and usually the star of those movies does press. And that Ezra's not doing press could hurt the movie.
But usually the star is not dealing with this heavy of mental illness.
Yeah, well,
issues.
and that's the thing is he's not still in. He went somewhere. He's not still there.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just call them Ezra.
Yeah,
that's just easier,
right?
Because it's hard to break the habit of. But we're attempting, anyways. That's where that's at. It's kind of a mess. I don't think Warner Brothers really cares. They just wanted to make some money.
So,
right, and they will.
The main negative thing I have seen is that it's released too close to Across the Spiderverse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and because you're going to tell kind of a similar story-esque, except there's a lot more time travel that causes the collisions of multiverses, I guess, for the Flash.
Yeah, I was going to say, clearly it's a multiverse story.
Yes.
Because you get two different Batmans. That's not a time. That's multiverse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to handle all that. And yeah, it's unfortunate for them that movie's coming out a couple weeks after the movie we're going to review today, which is pretty good. Pretty good. Last bit of news. And this just happened, in the last, sometime earlier today. Jared Leto.
Morbius star?
It's Morbin time. He's in a 5-star luxury hotel in Berlin, the Hotel de Rome in Berlin, of course, which I found hilarious. He decided to forego the elevator today, and he scaled the wall of the hotel.
Oh.
He's 51 years old. Wow. He scaled the brick wall of the Hotel de Rome, a 5-star luxury hotel in Berlin, without a harness, drawing an intrigued crowd. It's unclear why he scaled the building. Reps for Leto did not immediately respond to their request for comment. Like, how far did he climb? And why? And are we going to pretend this dude doesn't need help? I think Jared Leto needs help. Why? Why would you do that?
Yeah,
he's 51.
Right. You break if you fall.
Yeah, that's alarming behavior, to say the least. I mean, if I was to make a joke, maybe he's already seen the new Spider-Man movie and he's trying to do his imitation, but don't do that.
He's training for the Morbius sequel. That'll never happen. That dude is a strange one. He's a strange cat.
Yeah.
That's like, listen, if you were betting on things that Dave will never do in the rest of his life, scaling the wall of a multi-story building is probably pretty easy money. That's a pretty good bet.
This Dave or another universe's Dave?
Well, if we're going into the Dave verse, could be anything, but I'm just guessing pretty much any Dave is going to have this survival instinct that is not going to allow him to climb buildings.
In my 40s, I slipped in a car wash and dislocated my shoulder and broke it. I'm not climbing a building. I can't even wash my truck without.
I think we should make that into a movie. Oh, wow. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But, that's pretty old. 40s, right?
Yeah.
How old are you now? I shouldn't ask.
Still 40s. Still 40s. Okay.
So it wasn't that long ago.
50s are coming close.
Yeah. I don't slip and fall a lot only because I don't move fast enough. I don't exert enough pressure off my feet to slip anymore. It's not possible. It's gravitationally impossible.
The friction is just not.
It's not much. There. Yeah, I move pretty slow just to ensure I'm not. Anyways, let's move on and talk about what we're here to talk about right after this.
You are listening to Pop Culture Pastors.
All right, we're back. It's time to review Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. Obviously, spoilers. Heavy from this point moving forward.
Stop now
and
if
lots
you
of
haven't
spoilers.
watched it.
Yeah, so don't listen to the rest of this pod until you have gone to see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. You're going to want to see this movie.
Do go watch it.
If you like comic book movies, it's safe to assume that you're going to want to see this. It's very good. Am I wrong? I'll just spoil it a little bit there right off the bat and spoil what I thought about the movie. It's really good.
And if you love art.
I was going to say, like, visually, it's very captivating.
Yeah. It's so good. But we'll get into that. Let's slow down.
Okay.
First thing we always do is we give like a broad kind of take on the movie, a summary of the movie.
Spider-Man. Did it.
We continue where the first one leaves off. Miles Morales is Spider-Man in his Earth, his home, which is, forgive me, I'm not going to be able to remember all the numbers, but Miles Morales exists in his reality. He is the Spider-Man in his reality. And he is busy navigating the travails of being a student, being Spider-Man, being around and with his family, which is very Spider-Man things to do. We're used to all that because we've seen it with Peter Parker, and it's lovely to watch a young Spider-Man who's doing all that, because in the MCU, we don't get a lot of that. He's immediately in Avengers level stuff.
Right.
So taking this journey with Miles is fun because we get young Spider-Man, which
and that's what Stan Lee wanted.
Yes.
With this.
Yeah. He's a teenager when he appears on the scene. So through the course of the movie, he gets reopened to I guess we're calling it the Spider-Verse.
That's what I'm calling it.
That's what they're calling it. And he gets involved in this just giant adventure thanks to a villain that he has somehow helped create, as we find out from the end of the first movie and the Collider, Kingpin's Collider. He was a scientist in that building, and he's created this kind of goofy villain named Spot who can create portals. And eventually we'll be able to create these portals within like different universes. Over the course of the movie, Spot, who's voiced by Jason Schwartzman, fantastically, by the way, gets kind of more and more menacing. But really, he's kind of just a tool to drive the plot along in this movie. I suspect, and not to drop too big of a spoiler on you right off the bat, but I suspect he will be the big bad of the third movie.
I have a different guess for that, but
okay. Well,
I think he'll still be a big part of the third movie. I think you'll find out someone else is the big bad.
Yes. Don't give that away, though.
Yeah.
Yet.
yeah.
You're going to have to wait for that hot take.
Yeah. Basically, he gets involved with this team of spider people who police the Spider-Verse, police the multiverse.
Someone has to.
And honestly, what the job they're doing sounds a lot like the TVA in Loki, in the MCU kind of corner neck of the woods. And it's very much they're trying to assess, find anomalies, and then eliminate them. And they have a bunch of anomalies captured in their base, which I had a name, but I can't remember. It was really long.
York.
No, that was the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there was a name for like the base of operations with all the spider peoples. And anyways, what ensues is this. He kind of wants to work with them at first, but that becomes impossible because we find out that Miles Morales, our Miles Morales himself, is the first anomaly. That's the big turning point in the last act of the movie. Is Miles was never supposed to be Spider-Man, according to this multiverse police of spider people.
Right. This multiverse's Miles was not.
Yeah. So he was. Well, that's what they say. I have thoughts about this.
Spider 42 bit him.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the spider from Earth 42 bit him, and we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Because
you keep
that is important.
I want to. You keep calling it Spider-Verse. Miguel O'Hara said that's not the name.
Yeah. What does he call it? Just a multiverse.
I don't remember. Remember, he said there was.
Oh, yeah, because it was like
said
arachnid, something verse, and yeah.
Well, so he does that big explainer, and we actually see the MCU tree. You time with the tree with the branches that we've seen from Loki and other MCU properties. And then superimposed, like kind of over that, becomes this arachnid whatever, which clearly says that the spider peoples are operating on some different framework.
A whole nother universe.
Which is interesting, which I think does have some comic book backing. Like I think there's something about Spider-Man in the comics where this and sort of explains why the spider people are also wildly different, whereas most variants we see have lots of similarities.
Right.
Look similar, if not the same, act the same, somewhat the same. Like Doctor Strange is ambitious in every version of Doctor Strange we see. But the spider people are all wildly different.
A little bit in Loki.
Mm-hmm.
There was some.
Loki has some different
wild variants.
Kind of some wild variants. But again, I think that probably has a lot to do with Loki being a powerful being.
Right.
A shape-shifting trickster.
Yeah. Anyhow, the movie ends on a cliffhanger that we will get to later. I don't want to spoil the big cliffhanger ending yet.
Dun dun dun.
We will get to that in just a minute. Just a broad take on the movie, Cody. Any thoughts?
As someone that's not a huge Spidey guy, because usually I want heroes I can strive to be, and I've already been a teen with acne. It was definitely very fun, very colorful. It was amazing to see the different variants, which, I mean, we saw some in the first one, but now there's like a ton of them, and some of them look really, really cool. And I'm like, why doesn't Peter Parker look like this? Or our Peter Parker? And I did like the mixing in of live action.
Oh, yeah. The Easter eggs are really cool in this movie. And they mix in a lot of the live action scenes of Spider movies.
I do have one beef, though.
Okay.
So if you're going to go into Venom's verse and be at the convenience store, have Eddie walk in, please.
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a weird little, they drop in the convenience store clerk.
With the little lady.
Yeah, and when you own, that's their studio. You own the rights to Venom. Again, I think it's because Venom is intrinsically not tied to Spider-Man in their universe, which he is in the comics.
In which this could have been a good way to introduce him into the animation side of things. Is like, the symbiote broke off a little piece like it did in whatever movie.
Yeah, it would have been good, but they didn't do that. Matt, basic thoughts, broad take on the movie.
It was, what's the word? The style. I was very impressed with the artistic, because they pulled in so many different artists' views. Mm-hmm. And even across mediums of and obviously it's all generated on a computer, but to pull in the watercolors, and how they would flow, and
it's super inventive.
Yeah, and in the detail of each one, and how each character had their own
style.
Their own style. Yeah.
Really
not just different who they were. Like Punk, the Spider Punk.
Yeah.
Was awesome.
Yeah. This leads.
Literally loved the Renaissance vulture.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, pulling in Michelangelo.
The Da Vinci vulture.
Da Vinci. I'm sorry. Yeah, messing up my.
Oh, he was crazy. Yeah, that was amazing. That's a great segue into. Let's just go into what was good, because my first what was good is the animation. I said to I think was it you, Cody, or someone after the movie. Or I was texting with someone, it wasn't you, it was someone else. They asked me what my thoughts were. I was like, it was comic books come to life. Like the animation style brought comic books to life in a way that we have not seen, even in the first Spider-Verse movie, because I think with the animation in this movie, it was much more focused on the aesthetics of it. Whereas the first Spider-Verse movie, I think it was just chaotic. Right. They just wanted to create something bombastic and nutso, and there was all this stuff. But like you said, Matt, the aesthetics of the animation were very focused and concentrated on particular characters. And even the settings, when they would go to a different reality, a different universe, a different Earth, the animation would slightly change. And so I really thought they did a great job on this one of just being even more hyper focused on the aesthetics of each character, the aesthetics of the animation of each character. They were all different. There were some Earths where it was much more herky-jerky, like a stop-motion animation. Mm-hmm. There was some Earths, Miles' Earth in particular, had like the dot matrix kind of comic book print from the old days.
Yes.
And it was just, it's just gorgeous. It's just a gorgeous movie.
And it was almost overwhelming to your mind. Like it was pouring into you.
Yeah, you can't. So I've only seen this movie once. Usually I like to see these multiple times before we do a review, but the way it worked out, I didn't have time. And so I'm sure there's a lot that I've missed because on a movie like this, especially, my viewing was just to take in the whole thing, the whole aspect of it, the beauty of it.
Right.
And that's usually my first viewing in any of these comic book movies is just to take it in and, follow my feelings kind of on it.
Right.
And this movie is just, I mean, if you were ever a fan of comic books, if you were a reader of comic books.
You just hit it. Because I grew up with our age. We had comic books.
Yeah.
And this movie brought that nostalgia.
Yeah.
You hit it when you said that.
Down to the editor's notes.
Yes.
On the bottom corner of the frame.
Something would boom or.
Yeah. When they had to explain something, like when Hobie said it's Scooby-Doo and then flashed on the bottom of the screen very quickly, Scooby-Doo is slang for this is weird. This, this messed up. Like those editor's notes in comics would appear all the time to explain what was being done or something they had to clarify. And all of that, the characters with their banner introducing them, this is Spider whoever from Earth 320. Those were happening so fast that you couldn't even intake them all, which I think they're meant to, go back later and, hey, pause it because they're just Easter eggs.
Right. And I don't, you like to watch movies over and over I like to watch a movie and then move on to something. I want to watch this movie again and again.
Yeah, this movie is a must repeat view, in my opinion. But it's largely because of this style. Mm-hmm. This animation, its animation style, the aesthetics of it, just the beauty of it, then the focused plan they had for how it would look from character to character, Earth to Earth. It's just, they should be applauded. Like, this is an amazing feat. Exactly. This movie's an amazing technical achievement, in my opinion.
And Cody, I know you said that you're not a huge Spider-Man. That's not your, but yeah. I loved Spider-Man growing up, and I read a lot of Spider-Man comic books, and just the amount of different artists' take on Spider-Man that were in this were just mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be a huge Spider-Man fan to get that. I mean, you pointed it out, but it made me go, I do want to go back and watch this and pause it.
Yeah. And I want the listener to hold on to what you just said, that you grew up loving Spider-Man and that you love this movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And it hits all the right buttons. And I want the listener to hold on to that for a little bit because I'm going to come back to that. But let's go to Cody. What's good, Cody?
So, I mean, I assume that a lot of these different variants of Spider-Man and women, like they're borrowed from the actual comic books. And since there's been so many variations and so many different spin-offs that you didn't have to come up with a good backstory, but they did a good job explaining the backstory of these different versions of Spider-Man, which helped me as someone who's like well, Peter Parker's Peter Parker. And
maybe the most hilarious is Andy Samberg as Ben Reilly / Scarlet Spider. Oh my goodness, he was hilarious. But yes, go on.
And so the thing that really, I guess, sealed the deal for being really good was one particular cameo. Donald Glover.
Donald Glover cameoing as Miles Morales' uncle, the one that appears in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes.
And he was one of them that was anomaly was trapped.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Because he's not from this universe. He's in his Prowler gear, which was amazing.
Yeah.
He has
And-
some funny lines.
Like
yeah.
You got
is
to interact.
he is like in a lot of different Spider-Man stuff and voiced Miles Morales in Disney XD's Ultimate Spider-Man in 2014, which kind of spurred some of the interest back in Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that Donald Glover was here and it tied into that first Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
And that, he's out of place.
Totally agree. That might have been my favorite cameo too. But also we just love Donald Glover.
And in Community, he wears Spider-Man pajamas.
Yes. Gosh, he's so talented. We need more Donald Glover in our life.
We do.
Matt, what's
Yeah.
good? What else did you like about the movie?
I think I'm crushing on it a little bit. I think.
Yeah. But do you something specific?
Other the original the Spider-Man from the first
Tobey
verse
Maguire?
movie. Yes. So him with his am I saying that right? With his daughter
No. Okay, you're
me out.
talking
Jake
about
Johnson.
Jake Johnson
Yes.
voicing Peter B. Parker
Peter B. Yes,
from the
thank you.
first Spider-Verse movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
To see him happy in it, and he was hilarious.
Yeah.
I guess because I'm a dad and a grandpa, and
Mayday.
like
His daughter Mayday.
yeah, check out these photos. She's right here. No, check out these
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah, that was wonderful. I did see a couple reviews of people who were disappointed that he didn't have a bigger role. And I said, but I think that was intentional. I think it's because you're supposed to feel like, hey, he has meaning in his life now.
Right.
Yeah.
In the first movie, he's a sad sack.
Right.
He has nothing better to do with his time but to mentor young Miles and to be a part of this. Like he's got other things on his plate now that he enjoys, that his life is about.
And he gives Miles kudos. He gives him his props for that in the movie. He says, "Look, I've found joy because of what happened here."
When I watched the first one, I had not binged New Girl yet,
Oh, wow.
and so
That was your introduction to Jake Johnson.
it was, and so I've watched New Girl now probably 2 or 3 times over.
It is
and
awesome.
It's hilarious, and I'm like, hey, it's Nick Miller.
Oh man, he was the best part of New Girl too. He was so awesome. in that show.
I love the comedic timing they have with him. Well, you couldn't have been that great of a mentor. And it's like, well, he just defeated you.
Yes, I know. It was, yeah.
So my next thing I want to talk about of what's good, and this is where I wanted people to hold on to what you said about this movie, about how you grew up with Spider-Man and you grew up with Peter Parker, but you love this movie. And this movie is Spider-Man, except it's Miles Morales. Okay. Young African-American, Puerto Rican boy.
Right.
And I want to say that this movie is how you do diversity. You don't have to race swap an existing character. You don't have to engage in tokenism. Instead, you make a standalone character. Now, he is Spider-Man, but he's not our Spider-Man.
Right.
He's not Peter Parker. He's Miles Morales. And this movie is wonderful. You get Miles Morales' life. You get every bit of his Puerto Rican ancestry through his mom. You get his African American ancestry through his dad and how this all mixes for him. And you can see his mother's influence and her heritage influence and his dad's heritage and all of this. And I just thought it was brilliant and beautiful. And all through all of this, he never isn't Spider-Man.
Right.
He's Spider-Man. And it's believable and it's fantastic. And he's Miles. He's not Peter.
It's very much New York in that part of it.
Just like Peter was New York in his way, Miles is New York in a completely different borough, right?
It's the melting pot.
Yes. It's so fantastic and it's so wonderful. And the diversity in this film is just fantastically off the charts. I mean, look at this cast. Look at the cast of the voice actors.
No,
that is diversity personified, and it never feels forced. It just is, and that's exactly what they should do. It's everything the opposite of why when they were talking about DC was talking about making a black Superman movie, a black Clark Kent.
Yeah,
and it was like, why?
Right.
Just make a different Superman, which is what Michael B. Jordan wanted, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. He wanted to make a Superman movie about the Earth 23 Superman, a different multiverse Superman where he's not Clark.
Right. And you mentioned the Porter. I love the scene. Sorry, I'm chasing this rabbit, but I love the scene when they're in talking to the counselor and says, "Oh, you've got an A in phys." I think it was like maybe physics or something along those lines. And he says, "And a B in Spanish." His mother's like,
"Yeah,
boy," and she snaps her fingers, and it's a Puerto Rican flag. Like, oh no, you didn't.
Listen, the testimonies online. I was on Twitter today. And there were people, all sorts of people with ancestry from Central America, Dominican. Even I saw a guy who was Dominican who said, "I'm Dominican, I'm not Puerto Rican." But listening to his family interact was such a joy. Yeah. Because I live in New York and it reminded me of my mom. And it was just like, yeah, this is how you do diversity. He's a different character. He's not Peter Parker. And he doesn't have to be.
No.
It doesn't have to be. And you can you're freed up to make him exist in this diverse world without making it tokenism, without just saying, "Oh, here's your representation. We'll give you a character we're done with." Right?
Right.
Which, if you asked anybody who was of Hispanic descent or African American descent, from what I see online, most of them are like, "We don't want that."
Right.
They don't want that. They understand that it's sort of an insult, that it's sort of like we're getting cast-offs. "Oh, you don't know what to do with Clark Kent now? Oh, here you go. You can have him." No, man, that ain't it.
And think how far back, because you mentioned that, but when Marvel first introduced Miles Morales, how many years ago that was, because they got it right then.
It was way back. Yeah.
Yeah. And and he's an awesome
He's one
Spider-Man.
of the most popular characters in Marvel Comics.
My son would run around. He didn't want the original Spider-Man outfit when he was younger. He would run around in Miles Morales Spider-Man outfit. I mean, he had a couple of them. He would like, you gonna wear anything else out?
Well, full disclosure, it's a running gag in this movie. They keep making fun of his outfit, his spider costume, and I'm like, no, that's way better.
Are you bleeding out?
His costume's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it's his or one of the Venom Spider-Man, like after Peter has been venomized, that I'm like, oh, that suit's legit.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, that's all I want to say is that there are ways to do diversity where you can still make them like sort of like what Marvel's trying to do with Captain America, where they're making Sam take up the mantle of Captain America, but he's not Steve Rogers, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's sort of like that. Although Marvel's, I don't know if that will work as well as this because this just works. This just works. And Miles is Spider-Man. And for a lot of younger people, he's their Spider-Man. Peter Parker's not their Spider-Man. Miles Morales is.
It's real. It was not forced.
Yeah.
It was.
Yes. And I think that's a great way to put it, that it didn't feel forced at all. It felt easy. It felt natural. And for this movie, he was my Spider-Man, even though I grew up with Peter Parker.
Right.
How do you feel about Haley Steinfeld being both Gwen and Kate Bishop?
I'm okay with it because it's the animation.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have known it was Haley Steinfeld until I looked at the cast list.
I mean, this is like Oscar Isaac's third character in
and he's
Marvel.
pretty distinct. So I didn't need anyone to tell me that was him because he sounds like Oscar Isaac. But he's fantastic. He's great. And it's as Moon Knight, he's just got a different vibe.
Oh, yeah. Very different.
He's an amazing actor.
I'm all about Oscar, and he's trying to petition to get Pedro to be in the third. And I'm here for Pedro Pascal.
in the third Spiderverse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know who he'd play. Some other version of Spider-Man.
I'm here for it.
They could let him play maybe there are some Latino superheroes and villains, some of them that are closely tied to Spider-Man, the Tarantula. You remember him?
Yeah.
He wore kind of a Zorro style mask, but he had spider-ish type powers, right?
Yes.
There you go. Pedro Pascal is the Tarantula. Make it happen.
Or he could play the person that Bad Bunny's going to be.
No, don't waste him on that. Bad Bunny, you're fine. You go do that. We'll watch. We promise.
We'll see how Sony does with the live action stuff.
Sure, Bad Bunny. We'll be right along.
So do you want to apologize for all the Sony slander that you have tossed out over the years?
No, not at all. Because this is completely different. This isn't a shared universe of live action movies. This is an animated movie. And look, give credit where credit is due. These are in the conversation of some of the best comic book movies of all time. When we get there later, I'll talk about why I don't think it is the best comic book movie of all time. But they're really good. It's an incredible achievement that people care this much about. A movie that this is really bonkers. I mean, this is bonkers. The idea of this movie and the one before it are just bonkers.
They are.
Yeah, 20 years ago, everybody was like, what?
Now I have to ask, what's your favorite? You're going to lead to that?
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. I have a reason why this is not the best comic book movie of all time, like some people are saying.
I'm not. I'm going to spoil it and say I'm not even sure if it's the best animated comic book movie of all time. But
that's bold.
Yeah,
it's not a negative critique when I say that.
I loved Iron Giant.
There we go. That's outside.
Is that a comic book movie though?
No, but he said animated.
Oh, you said animated comic book.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, animated comic book.
Oh, okay.
But I was also going to say, because I've heard people say this is easily the best animated movie of all time. And I'm like, you hold your horses.
Well, hold on. Now, technically, I'm willing to go along with that argument if it's about the technical aspect. Because as I said, I think the animation, the aesthetics are brilliant. I think it's genius. I think we're looking at something that's never been done before. But when you say best animated movie, you got to take everything into account, the story, everything.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's a little bit tougher, I think. But anything else good that we want to talk about? Do you have anything else on your list?
No, I just really like all the different characters, variations.
Matt, do you have anything else? Because I have one more.
No, go ahead.
The voice actors in this movie are all brilliant. And I know they won't, but they should win awards. The acting they do with their voices in this movie, Jason Schwartzman as Spot, as the sort of background villain who's the kind of the catalyst for all this, everything in this movie, is fantastic.
I agree.
He is so good. He's hilarious.
From the beginning to the end.
He's sort of a goofball. And then at the end, he's actually menacing. And you're like, wow.
And he switched it well.
Yes.
So as soon as he spoke, I'm like, ooh, they got Jason.
Yeah.
And then
his voice is so
And then I was like, He did a great job as Gideon Graves in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, a great comic book movie. Mm-hmm. And when he was switching back and forth between like comedic and then menacing, I'm like, he still has it.
Yeah. Haley Steinfeld's great as Gwen.
Oh, yeah.
Shamik Moore, of course, as Miles Morales is fantastic. Oscar Isaac, we've talked about as Miguel O'Hara, is the perfect. The way he acts this with like you can just the confidence of him just oozes, and yet we can tell he's a broken man, and then he explains like we get the backstory of Miguel, and he's like we see how broken he is, but like you didn't need that to know he was broken, you just knew, through his voice,
you could feel it. Yeah.
Daniel Kaluuya as Hobie as Spider-Punk, he's unrecognizable.
Oh yeah. And at first, I was like, I'm Team Miles. You get Hobie out of here. And then I'm like, actually, I might be Team Hobie after this.
And I love when Miles, when he pulls his mask, he goes, how are you cooler with your mask off?
Karan Soni as the Moombatan Spider-Man is so awesome and hilarious. Issa Rae as Spider-Woman. Oh man, Brian Tyree Henry. Oh my, the list just keeps going. Andy Samberg has a voice. Rachel Dratch as the principal.
I immediately recognized Rachel's voice.
Immediately recognizable, and she's great. I mean, it really says something. Just going in there, going and getting very talented people that they probably had to pay a little more for.
Right.
And it just pays off so fantastically. Like the voice acting work in this is top notch. And I would have trouble thinking about an entire animated cast that I thought was better than this one in execution.
There isn't.
They're just so good.
I'll just say it. There isn't.
So there's not the amount, but there is the upper echelon talent with The Killing Joke.
Okay.
Because you get Conroy as Batman.
Conroy's amazing.
You get Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you get any better than those two.
I guess what I want to confine it to like your big budget tentpole theater movies though. Conroy and them did so many that were like not theater animated films. I'm talking about ones, that were theater born, not to diss on Conroy and Hamill because they're legends.
Mm-hmm. Right. And somebody over here likes Star Wars a lot.
Yes.
I think the only one that immediately comes to mind for me is Toy Story. Because there's just so many recognizable voices. Yes. And I think that's what really kills me about this movie, Spider-Verse, is you look at the cast and you think, I know all these people.
Right.
And yet, when I'm watching the movie, they're not these people. They're the characters. And Toy Story was the same way. Like, in the back of my mind, I knew it was, Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Cliff Clavin.
Yeah.
But it wasn't them.
Ernest.
It was, it was them. It was the characters. And so I think just this is one of the best animated movie casts ever. They were wonderful. All right. Anything else good? Or we can move on to the stuff not so good.
Not so good.
Stuff not so good. Anybody?
I do have one.
Okay, you do have one.
Okay. So the thing that stood out the most to me from the first one was the song that made it huge.
Oh, okay.
Sunflower,
right?
Featuring one Post Malone. Mm-hmm. There really wasn't a song in this that like stood out.
The ending. Yes, I disagree.
The last song at the credits was good, but I couldn't tell you who it was.
Right.
And like it wasn't an earworm for me where like Sunflower, it's on my playlist.
Oh, that's true. Okay, I agree with that. That it's
like I'm not saying the music was bad by any stretch of imagination because there was definitely like good songs during the movie and at the post credit. I'm just saying we don't have that. Like this is going to get played out on.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Radio.
I hadn't really thought about it, but the music in one is more front and center, whereas this one there's great music in it, like for the scene, but none of it. I couldn't tell you any of the songs that played the movie.
Yeah.
So I think you're right.
Yeah, I guess I'll agree. Because Sunflower is so contagious.
It is.
I mean, it just, once you hear it, it's stuck in your head and you want to play it over and over.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's true.
If I was to critique, that was the obvious one for me.
So what? So I told you this because we were at the movie at the same time, not on purpose. I did not. I intentionally didn't want to know much about it, so I kept out of that. And when it ended as a sequel, I'm like, what? No.
Yeah. Let's talk about the end for a second.
Sorry.
This movie ends on no, because this is exactly what I was about to bring up. If I'm critiquing, then we got to go here. The movie ends on a cliffhanger. Some people were in the know on this because they made them at the same time. It's one of those, we had a hit movie, now we're making a sequel, but it's going to be two movies. We're making it at the same time. They're going to be separated a year apart, and a lot of people, judging by the theater reaction that we were in, Matt, didn't know that.
Right.
Audible groans.
Yes.
At the end of a great movie.
All those teen kids behind us.
Oh, and the kids. Yeah, the kids hated it.
They're like,
the kids hated it. And so it leads me to say, because we get this great cliffhanger of Miles being captured by what we think is his uncle from Earth 42.
Right.
Because the machine has sent Miles to Earth 42, the machine that reads DNA in the spider base.
Right.
But he's got the spider venom from Earth 42. He's not from Earth 42, but it thinks he is.
Yep.
So he goes back to the wrong universe. He gets captured by the Prowler, and surprise, evil Miles,
yes,
who is the Prowler in this universe now.
Who was supposed to be Spider-Man in that.
Because he's not Spider-Man.
Right.
Because the spider didn't bite him.
Right.
It bit our Miles. And now we've got like this evil Miles, good Miles, and then that's when we're done. This movie's to be continued. Audible groan, and I'm just going to say it, of all the things I love about this movie, I do not like this thing they do where we make a great movie and then we decide we're going to do a sequel, but we're going to make it two movies that we're making concurrently, and you're going to get a separated story.
And I got to wait 9 months.
Yeah, I don't dig that.
No.
I don't dig that at all.
So I'm going to say I'm probably am in the minority.
It's subjective for sure. Some people are okay with
that. I honestly thought this should have been a series.
Ooh,
because
okay. I thought you went a different direction.
Yeah, there were parts where I'm like, well, we could have fleshed this out a little bit more, and then there's parts where I'm like, oh, this kind of like towards the end, I'm like, how long is this? Because it felt long. It might not have been that long, but it felt long, probably just because I was so overwhelmed by everything that was happening in and around the movie.
Do you think it's because you couldn't feel the end?
So I went in knowing that there was clearly going to be a cliffhanger. I didn't know how they were going to do it, but I had read that like a week before. Inadvertently. I wasn't seeking it out, but so I was prepared for that. But yeah, like towards the end, they're going back and forth between our Miles's actual universe or world and then Earth 42, and I'm like, okay, we're going back and forth. This is nice, but we can hurry this up. And then it's like, stop.
Yeah.
So I thought it could have been a series, or you end it with him realizing I'm not on my Earth.
Yeah.
And that would have been a great spot. And then you start off with instant drama of, oh, here's Uncle, Dad's dead, and me is a bad person.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because a significant plot point in this movie is that our Miles is an anomaly. Yes. He's the first anomaly.
Right.
He's the one who started it all. And Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2009,
right,
and his team are chasing him down because he's an anomaly. They're trying to get rid of him. And he says to Miles that you were never supposed to exist. You are not Spider-Man. You were never supposed to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Here's why I think he's wrong. I think he's wrong because the whole point of the being Spider-Man is tragedy befalls you.
Yeah.
The Miles that was supposed to be bit that we meet at the end of this movie from Earth 42, who is evil, would have been evil whether the spider bit him or not, which to me proves that he was never supposed to be Spider-Man.
Right.
Because of all the Spider-Man, they're good. They're all good.
Yeah.
There's no bad Spider-Man, okay? This Miles would have been bad no matter what. He lost his dad. Uncle becomes main caretaker guy. He's the guy he looks up to, and he turns to a life of crime. This guy was never going to be good. So I think we're going to find out in the next movie that our Miles was always supposed to be Spider-Man.
Right. And you feel that because remember, he keeps going back to his uncle's death scene of keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. And when he's telling when Miguel is telling Miles, you were never supposed to be Spider-Man, you can see that he's going, nope, I'm going to keep moving. I'm not listening to you at all. I'm going to keep moving forward. And that's sort of the chase scene was he just kept moving forward.
And something referenced very subtly in this movie is the difference between losing your emotional good catalyst for either Peter or Miles or whoever the spider person's lives, and the difference between losing a captain. Okay. Mm-hmm. You'll notice the ones that lost a captain are all pretty troubled. They're good, but they like Gwen is troubled. Like she's not, she is struggling. And the ones that lose a captain, such as Miles from Earth 42, who's not bitten, but he loses his dad, who's a captain, instead of losing his uncle. And that mattered for Miles. It mattered who he grew up with. And I think we're going to see something about the spider people that lost their Uncle Ben. I think that is a key. I think the uncle is a key. And I think in particular, the ones that had Uncle Ben's or any uncles that sent them down the right path, which is, it's interesting that our Miles' uncle the Prowler.
Yeah.
Sent him down the right way by his words that he shared with him. And the one that survives, the one who loses his dad and not his Uncle Prowler, turns him to a life of crime. That's all interesting to me. I think that's going to come out in the third one, but it's just a theory.
I like that theory though.
Yeah. I was going to say something else.
Oh, I got one.
Go ahead.
And it might trigger yours. So there was supposed to be a post-credit scene for this movie, and it got cut.
Oh, really?
Originally, there was going to be a scene in Across the Spiderverse where the Spot goes to a bar full of villains and gets humiliated. Then in the post-credit scene, he would have went back to the bar and beat up all the villains using his new strength.
Oh, God, that would have been dope.
And so
I'm sad we didn't get that.
That was something that was a negative for me, was that there was no post-credit.
It was an interesting choice.
Which, I mean, I had read that spoiler like this morning, and so I didn't stay. But I'm like, what is the Spot? I don't know what this means. And then, like, when you first see him, I'm like, do they have Rorschach from?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Watchmen?
Very reminiscent. Yeah,
and it wasn't him. Spoiler.
Greatest. Let's move on because clearly there's not a lot of bad stuff to talk about. Yeah. I will say the final word on the sequel stuff, the doing the two concurrently. There's pros and cons. You're pretty much all but guaranteed that part 3 is going to be of the same level of this one. Mm-hmm. That movies can't miss. Like this movie's probably going to make 1.5 billion at least. Like it's got a good. I think it's crossing $1 billion no matter what.
Right.
I think that's a given.
I agree with you.
Because this movie in its first week just did amazing. It just destroyed The Little Mermaid. Which are you going to make me say it? Are you going to make me say it that one is an example of how to do diversity? The other one is how not to.
Right.
Like, I'm just going to say it, even though, listen, my wife and my daughters loved the new Little Mermaid, and I'm glad. That's great. I want them to have movies with strong female characters and all of that, and that's great. And I want those female characters to look like the people we see out in the world. I want it to be diverse.
Yeah.
So I'm not pooping on diversity.
No.
I just want you to do it right. And I think that this movie crushing and Little Mermaid struggling, which Bob Iger famously guaranteed Little Mermaid was going to bring Disney back.
See, you mentioned your wife and your daughter. So my daughter, who just graduated, 18, loved Little Mermaid as a kid and would watch it over and over and over. Literally, I bought her a Unitel and made her a mermaid suit that she would wear in her pool and swam in it so much that it literally fell apart. It was swimming so much. And so she was super excited to watch the new movie. And you got to know my daughter. She is the kindest soul you'll ever meet. And so she was pumped about the movie and could care less about all the stuff that people would say about.
Yeah.
But when we were done with the movie, she was like, it did no justice to the.
Well, I've heard a lot of people say that, and that's too bad. But maybe maybe the younger kids will love this movie, the Little Mermaid movie. I don't know.
She did say she liked it though.
Yeah, it's fine, and I'm glad my daughters liked it. Like I said, but I'm just saying it's interesting to me that the legs on that movie are not good at this point with the money it made.
Any of their live
in
action
its second week. Well, yeah, there's a problem with all of that. That's not fair to put all on how they're handling diversity.
Yeah,
for sure. I just thought it was interesting.
Right.
But I'm probably being unfair. I'll admit that. Okay. The Greatest Story Ever Told award. Are there biblical themes and references in this movie?
My dear friend Miles Morales, he not only pulls a Batman, but he pulls a Jesus. I reference Batman because I just watched Hush the other day. And in Hush, Batman, Catwoman's like, you really think you can save everyone? And Miles Morales is like, I can save everyone.
Yep.
And then you know what Jesus did? He saved everyone.
Yeah. Well, it's the hero story, right?
It is.
Yeah. In every superhero movie, we can draw that connection because it turns out we like the same story over and over again. There's a reason hero stories are what we like.
Yeah.
And it's because it's derivative. It's always derivative.
Now, it remains to be seen if in part 3 he's going to have to lay down his life or come close to it.
No, he's not going to. They're not going to kill off Miles. They're going to go. They announced this past week that they're definitely planning live action Miles, which great. Sony, go that direction. Quit giving us these weird standalone sideshow Spider-Man villains without Spider-Man. Like, I don't need Morbius. I don't need Kraven the Environmentalist. I don't need whatever else, like Madam Web, all these weird side characters that nobody cares about. Give us live action Miles. That'd be great.
I would take a live action Spider-Man 2099.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Would it be Oscar Isaac?
I hope so.
He'd have to get buff. He'd have to do some buffness.
He would.
Get in the weight room, Oscar. Make it happen. Anything else? I don't remember any direct allusions or references to the Bible.
I mean, there's just the hero trope.
Yep, just the hero trope. Who is the winner of this movie? This is hard. This could be a hard one. Who wins this movie?
Of characters?
Who? It's like, who gets the biggest bump from this? Because this movie exists, who gets the most bump from it? I mean, I really don't know.
I don't.
I wonder if it's the character of Miles Morales, if this solidifies that people love this character and we do get a bunch of live action Miles movies and appearances. Heck, maybe we even do a deal where he starts appearing in MCU stuff. I mean, that'd be fantastic.
I will go with someone outside the realm just because I think, I mean, they're already a big name, but They just got a little extra range now. Daniel Kaluuya.
Daniel Kaluuya is amazing.
Hobie was amazing.
How talented is Daniel Kaluuya? I wish I was a third as talented at anything as Daniel Kaluuya is at acting and at anything related to that.
There's
he's
a
fantastic.
Dave out there that is.
In the Dave verse.
That's right.
There's a Dave out in the Dave verse that's hanging with Daniel Kaluuya, feels cool. Daniel Kaluuya, who I love Daniel Kaluuya in Nope. He was amazing in Nope.
He was?
Yeah. Oh, man, he's so good. And Hobie in this movie steals every scene he's in.
He does.
He's fantastic.
And that's why when you said who went, I'm like, Gwen was great. Miles was great. Miguel was great. Hobie was great. I don't know.
Yeah. Honestly, I need to watch this movie on streaming with captions so I can see all the stuff he was saying under his breath bashing capitalism. Because that part of the punk aspect of him was hilarious and spot on. That is so spot on. If you've ever had a friend, I mean, you grew up, you're my age. If you had a friend who was big into the punk scene, I mean, his anti-capitalist establishment, I mean, it was just perfect.
Yes.
So hilarious. So awesome. He was great. That's a great pick, Cody.
I'm doing this, but I'm not doing it because you told me to.
Do you have a winner? Who do you think wins this movie?
I really don't know.
Yeah. It's tough. This may be one of the toughest ones we've ever had to pick a winner for. It's okay if you don't have one.
I don't. I'm telling you, I'm giving a tie from those four. Hobie, Gwen, Miles, Miguel, because I loved them all, and I think
they were great.
all of them could have.
I have a different winner. I'm going a different direction.
Okay.
I'm hoping it's the people you owe an apology to.
The winner of this movie is Sony.
Yes.
Woo, look.
Apology to Sony.
Especially that they're kicking Disney's butt at the box office doing it. That The Little Mermaid got stomped on. And Disney's in a downward trend. Oh, anyways, their franchises are struggling. Star Wars, Marvel, it's all their live action cartoon junk. It's all struggling. And here's Sony just kicking the nerd out of them. And Sony needed a win, frankly, because their Spider-Man stuff has not been great. Yeah. And this solidifies. I mean, the first Spider-Verse movie was good, but they needed to prove it. This is a prove it, and they have something here that they can keep building on. Now, I don't know, I don't know about their live action stuff, but this is amazing, and Sony's my winner.
Yeah, and I just love that Cody's loving that.
Yes.
It is what it is.
It's Morbin time.
It is. No, it's not. It is
Why
not
would you tear it
Morbin
down
time.
like that?
I kept waiting for Morbius to make a cameo in this movie. I really thought he might, and I was just like, no, don't you do it. Don't you do it.
Fingers crossed.
Go get him next time award. Who's the loser of the movie? Is there a loser?
Disney.
So, Disney was going to be a good answer.
Not arguing.
But I'll go with, and it's not because they did a bad job. They actually were phenomenal. But I don't like Oscar Isaacs being bad.
Yeah. Is he bad, though?
I'm calling him bad.
Anti-hero.
He's an anti-hero, and it's making me sad, and I like to be rooting for Oscar Isaacs at all times.
Now, we're pastors. You know why we like Oscar Isaac, right? Me and Cody. Have you heard this?
No.
We actually like Oscar Isaac because before he was a famous actor, he was the front man for a Christian ska band. True story.
And they played at Cornerstone.
And if he wants to be on the show and talk about it, oh, man. I'd love to talk to Oscar Isaac about the Christian ska band he was in. That's just amazing. What an amazing
Show
story.
100, Oscar, is coming up.
There's YouTube videos out there of Oscar Isaac being a front man for a Christian ska band, and you should definitely YouTube them. Just definitely look them up.
I'm going to now.
It's amazing.
And I think you can get him on Show 100.
Oh, man.
If you are people that knows
From
people,
your lips to God's ears, make it happen.
But Miguel O'Hara is an anti-hero. So he played the
I know
part.
he did a great job. I'm just not rooting for him.
I
And
gotcha.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Do you have a loser of the movie?
A loser.
Yeah.
No.
it might be Marvel, to be honest.
I joked and said Disney, but
Marvel's in a tough spot. The MCU, they're in a tough spot.
Because now Sony's actually doing something with their Marvel
Yeah,
properties.
I'm telling you, if Guardians 3 wasn't good, there would be some interesting conversations happening right now.
right.
With the Sony knocking it out of the park with this one. I think I'm going to have co-losers of the movie. I'm going to go Jake Johnson and Andy Samberg because I just wanted more of their characters.
Fair enough.
They were so amazing.
Especially Andy.
Andy Samberg, Ben Reilly as a goth, like sad sack Scarlet Spider is so in the I believe in the comics he's a clone of Peter Parker. Right. And he's very sad that he's not a real person.
and the way they did it was just,
oh man, that character was so stinking funny, and I just wanted way more of him.
when they first just walk up on him.
And that he was kind of channeling sad Nick Cage voice to do that. I wanted him and Spider-Man Noir to be in a scene together. Oh gosh, it was so good, and there just wasn't nearly enough of it. Just not enough. It's time for the bottom line question, and it's going to be a two-parter. Is this the best comic book movie of all time? That's what a lot of people are saying. And I want you to explain your answer because I do have a very definite explanation of my answer. So do you want to go? Do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
Okay, go ahead.
So I will say up front.
A two-part question. Is this the best comic book movie of all time? And if not, can an animated movie be the best comic book movie of all time? That's the second part.
It's no and no. But I will tell you up front, I don't believe animated movies should necessarily be theatrical releases. I've only seen one other animated movie in theaters, and it wasn't because I really wanted to go see it.
You're going across the board.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it was Toy Story 3, which I love.
You haven't seen Super Mario Brothers?
I didn't watch it in theaters.
Okay. All right.
Tears
That's a hot
came
take.
down my eyes during Toy Story 3, but I would not have gone and seen it in theaters. I would have watched it on DVD or streaming instead. But I had friends that were like, get in, loser. We're going to go watch this. So
It's good friends.
For me, I do think that you can do a lot of really cool things with animation that you can't do with live action. But you lose a lot of emotional gravitas with phenomenal, great live actors. And I do think that there has been some better stories told. I'm more of a stories guy. This felt like Infinity War. That there's so much happening and there's a build up to Endgame. Mm-hmm. There's a build up to Beyond the Spiderverse. And so that's what it kind of feels like. And I will tell you, Infinity War and Endgame, great movies to watch, not the best stories upon rewatching. Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
And I mean, I have at least a couple of Batman movies towards the very top, above definitely this. I'll say it's my favorite Spider-Man movie. I'll go that far, even though I really like the last Tom Holland one. Again, not a huge Spider-Man fan, so
That's okay.
I'll disclose. I will say
you're not going to get a bunch of outrage for saying that this is your favorite Spider-Man movie. Like that, there's going to be a lot of people who say that.
I'll say it was done phenomenally. I enjoyed it. I will rewatch it. Maybe not like immediately, but it will be like, oh, that was fun. Let's go back.
Yeah. Matt?
I will rewatch it.
Is this the best comic book movie of all time? And if not, can an animated movie be the best comic book movie of all time? Because I think
it can be the best animated comic book movie. Well, no, sorry, best comic book movie of all time.
Do you think an animated movie can be the best comic book movie of all time?
Yes, I'll say yes to that.
You think that's possible?
Yes. And I hope I don't get in trouble for what I'm about to say here, but I'm going to go. I'm hyped with this right now, and so my probably my dopamine levels and serotonin are through the roof because I just watched it yesterday, and so I'm still hyped on this movie. So I'm like, this is awesome. But if I was to back up, because it is a comic book movie, and it's not appropriate, please don't go out and watch it on this. Listen, but Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
Was an amazing animated movie, and it is a comic book movie because Heavy Metal, the magazine, had these comic strips. That's what it was based on.
I always knew you were a weirdo. I knew it. And like, listen, you have to be of a certain age to know what he's talking about. And there was something about Heavy Metal that is just...
John Candy was in it.
Yeah, fantasy, sci-fi. I mean, that's just on a different level. Yeah. That was a good... You're right. There was something about the movie that was really good.
And it pushed the limit. I mean, it changed so much about animation.
Well, that was like the first kind of foray into like adult comic book, right?
Right.
Like it was very much not for children.
Right. It did not get the comic book stamp of approval.
Yeah. I don't think an animated movie can be the best comic book movie of all time. This movie, as already stated, is a wonderful technical achievement. It's amazing. The aesthetic of it, the animation's fantastic. We already said the acting is the story, how they put the story together, the plot, how they move it, the pacing is brilliant. It's all great. Technically, this is an amazing achievement, but I'm going to echo what Cody said. Think about Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight. Think about the gravitas he's able to bring to that character. And as good as this voice acting crew is, none of the characters can have a gravitas like you can with a live action actor who embodies the part. And I understand that's really subjective. That's mileage is going to vary on this one. I know there's people right now screaming at me. And then there's people saying, yeah, I agree. Because I think that's going to be really subjective, but that's just how I feel. For me, it just can't get to the same heights as a live action adaptation.
Yeah.
And that's just where I come out on it.
And I also feel that like memorable scenes stick out a lot more in live action, even with Andrew Garfield's trash Spider-Man movies, as the kids refer to them. I'm not that mean. Mm-hmm. I mean, when Gwen dies, he carries a ton of emotion, and like that's like burned in my image.
Even in
my
No
mind.
Way Home,
yeah,
there's no emotional beat in this movie that equals Andrew Garfield's performance when he saves Gwen in the No Way Home, or not Gwen, but he saves MJ.
Yeah,
and his facial acting, everything, you just can't come up with that gravitas
and
in an animated
like
film.
When Bane breaks the bat.
Oh boy, here we go. Every time we can't ever talk about anything without talking about Bane breaking the bat.
That's because like holy cow, it goes up there with the Joker's pencil magic trick.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
I'm like,
Tom Hardy's amazing in that role.
I saw those two scenes, I'm like, oh my goodness, like my mind exploded. Like I was overwhelmed by all the cool graphics in this, but like Scott Pilgrim kind of did some cool graphics with live action stuff, and it was very much formatted like a comic book, and it is based on a comic book. And so
I
mean, the end of Endgame.
Oh yeah, Robert Downey Jr.
Yep.
Tears.
I think we're all in agreement here. How many out of 10 are you giving this movie, Matt? And let's give some context. What would you give the first Spider-Verse movie and this one?
I would give them both a 9.
Both 9s. All right. Cody?
So I will give 2 grading scales.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as like just a comic book movie, like 7.5 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one probably would have been like a 7 to 7.5. But in like animated, I'll go a solid 9 to 9.5.
Yeah, this is definitely in the conversation of best animated comic book movies ever.
Right.
And should be. I'm going to give the first Spider-Verse an 8. It was very good. I loved it at the time. And this one an 8.5. I think this is a step up. I think it's good. I think it's great. Like I said, I think they focused in more on the aesthetic and really focused on like the changing aesthetics of the characters and the worlds. And so I just loved it. And then everything came together in a much more focused way, I think.
Now, if it hadn't ended with to be continued,
go ahead.
Would that have changed the rating?
So that's you hit.
Maybe.
That's why. Okay, I gave it both the 9s, and I was thinking that. So I thought this was better than the first. So I couldn't give. I'm like, I got to give it a 9. The first movie. This one, I gave it a 9 because of the cliffhanger. I would have given it a 10.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's fair. I don't know. I think I can judge this separately.
Maybe a 9.5.
Like I think Infinity War is a better movie than Endgame.
But Endgame has the conclusion of this epic.
And so Endgame is more satisfying.
Yes.
Right.
And so it's really hard to distinguish like those emotions and feelings. And
Yeah. But I think I can judge this one individually. And I'm giving it an 8.5. On second viewing, I might go up to a 9. It could go half a point either way on second viewing. We get up to a 9.
I really think it could have stopped a little bit earlier with the to be continued, and it would have been just as meaningful.
Yeah, you're probably right. Although that reveal at the end with Evil Miles, that's pretty dope. That was pretty wicked. What'd you guys think of the movie, dear listeners? Where are you putting this movie on the scale of comic book movies of all time? A lot of people out there saying it's the best comic book movie of all time. You've heard our thoughts. Now share yours. Please follow our social media on Facebook, Twitter, and join the community group on Facebook and join the discussion. Comment on the post for this podcast release, and then share it too with your friends and tell them why they should listen to the podcast. That helps us out a lot. Of course, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Give us a nice review. That also helps as well. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Pop Culture Pastor.